Welcome to that little crafting place where I do miniatures and much more. It has been exceedingly cold outside. As of the filming of this video, it was 7 degrees. It's been between 7 and 18 degrees for the last couple of weeks, and it's just too cold for me to work out in the garage. In the meantime, the build has been dismantled. I'm finalizing my design for the inglenook hearth and getting the materials to make that ready. I do not have the workspace inside the house to work on such projects, so I have to wait till it warms up. I am making sure I have all of the art supplies I need for the projects I've planned this year, but I'm most excited to get this build completed this spring. There is nothing more exciting for a crafter than to come across a couple really good button jars, and I did, and I've been saving these for just such an emergency as a cold day. Getting all the tape off is the most challenging part, but stuck to this tape with these stunning glass buttons. If I can get all that sticky business away, look at that. I am going to plan some very nice projects with those buttons. That big one I think I'm going to give to my friend Julie. I'm going to turn them all over so you can see them. Get them all tidy. Look at those beautiful buttons. Julie has some pillow projects that she's doing, so I think I'm going to share those with her. These stunning brass buttons are absolutely incredible. I am just so excited about this button haul. I'm going to play a little music as we empty the jar. I start watching this and then I forget to say anything because I absolutely run out of words, so it just is what it is. Those are just some simple shank buttons. We're going to set those aside to redonate. I don't usually use those, and I do have extras. I did make a project, 1/12 scale garbage cans, where I used those shank button backs as the lids to the garbage cans, and it turned out wonderfully. What was really nice about this jar and the jar coming up, I think there's 2 jars in a bag if I remember correctly, is that there were lots of sets. And there was a set of some wonderful clay beads that we're going to come across. I'm not sure if it's in this jar, but those are going to be resold on eBay. They're beautifully glazed. They almost resemble the glaze of, I think Bill Campbell is his name, but they're not. They're just buttons, but they remind me of his work. Beautiful glass buttons. I have some special projects set aside, especially as I collect glass buttons. My sister-in-law, her mother was at one time the president of the National Button Club and had a vast button collection, which I received some lovely buttons, and I'll share that image with you of a project that she made for a button display. And we're going to do a similar project with some of these buttons. But I've loved buttons for years, but I didn't realize that she collected buttons, and when she passed away, I received a few from her collection, and I really appreciate them. I was given the option of, I think it was 3 beautiful blue Wedgwood buttons and the colorful glass buttons, and I chose the colorful glass buttons because it was a little piece of artwork that Mrs. Ryer had done. It was just a wonderful memory piece. And I have it hanging up on my wall in my room. I just love going through all of these buttons. There are just some really unique ones. The ones that were not so unique, I'm going to set aside and redonate. I've been making a habit of doing that. I went through this winter, went through all my things, any ingredients left over from finished projects, I redonated, especially thrifted glitters that were not the size I was going to use. I only use the ultra fine glitter. I'm going to keep most of the brass buttons because I have projects that a lot of them involve brass buttons, and I'm trying to separate things out into sets as I can find them. This winter so far, since last week, I've emptied 2 more quarter-size totes because I finished a couple of projects, which I will be sharing with you sometime in the next week. I do think I am very close to finishing up all my loose ends. We're just going to go through real quick and get a gander of what's in this jar. Yeah, all those simple wood buttons, I did not keep those. I redonated those, and the toggles, those all were redonated. I don't personally know anybody who collects them or makes use of them as I do, so it's best to just let the local mission thrift stores make a couple of dollars on the rest of the buttons. Yeah, there was a full set of the milk glass buttons, now that I see that. Lots of toggles. I don't normally pay, I think this one was $8. I don't normally do that on a button jar, but I recognized some of the buttons in there and it was worth it to me to do that. I did not keep any of those. I set those aside. More toward the bottom, they were the buttons that I redonated. I see that now. I have a particular fondness for glass buttons, especially the black buttons. I like to look for the morning buttons. I only have a couple of those. Now we're reaching the end, and I'm going to redonate that glass canister. Yep, just simple buttons. Keep some and donate some. This particular jar I picked up for all the brass shank buttons. Let's see if those clay buttons are in this jar. Very hard to get that tape off. Let's see what's inside. Some simple shank buttons. I'm not going to keep the silver ones. I'm not terribly fond of silver, so those are going to go into the donate pile. There were a lot of sets, and that was really nice. There are some certain shapes I'm going to keep for the build, and that's for a specific reason, because the Jessica Ridley from the little miniature book, The Decorated Dollhouse, she utilized various brass buttons and silver buttons for a specific purpose in one of her rooms, and that's why I'm going to isolate some of these buttons for that purpose. I have about 3 pounds of white buttons, and I have not redonated them yet. I don't know if I'm going to make a project out of them or redonate them. I kind of hang on to a few things for quite a long time till I settle if I'm actually going to make a project out of them. Those were fun to come across. I have plans for those. There were a lot of black glass buttons, and that's Jet. It's a pretty silver one. The decorative silver ones I'm keeping. There were some beautiful glass buttons in this as well. There's a nice big button for Julie. Some more of the little diamond filled. That's a glass button. Oh my gosh, there were 3 bundles. I forgot about that. There were quite a lot in there. The little aqua buttons, those are also glass. Wonderful mixture of colors. Well, I thought the ceramic buttons were in this jar, but apparently they weren't. Those were glass, those were lovely, and there's a matching pair. I kept those because I might use those in a project. All very beautiful. I think out of all of them, this was my favorite find. It was 50% off day, so I got them for $2.50. This was an exciting envelope to open, and I've taken a peek at the side, and guess what I found in there? Those were the ceramic buttons that are in there. I knew they were somewhere. I purchased this little bag because those are all black glass buttons. There were tons of them in this little bag. That's all black glass. So I'm going to make a special display for that black glass. I'm not going to use them in projects. They are absolutely stunning, and I can't wait to make a display for them. So that might be a little something that we do over the next couple of weeks. If it stays cold, I probably will not be out in the garage until the beginning of March, maybe middle of March. What I can do inside is start working on miniatures for the build. I have certain things that I want to make first, but I can't get started on new things. I'm one of these people that if I know there are loose ends, I need to get those tied up, and I'm just closing in on the last few projects that have been unfinished for a long time. I will be completing the editing on several videos, and I will get those posted over the next couple of weeks. Here's a little challenge for you. Let me know in the comments below how many times I've used the word buttons, and I will give you the answer in my next video. Those were fabulous buttons. I was so excited to find them because those are the brass buttons I was talking about. And I'm going to be using those in the build. It was so worth going out thrifting that day, even if I just came home with a little envelope of buttons. And I do think that was one of the only things I found that day. It was very exciting. These are the clay buttons I found, and I'm going to put those up on eBay as a set. Very pretty. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I know it was 15 minutes roughly of my mindless chatter and looking at vintage buttons. Please like and subscribe and share my crafting channel with your crafting friends. I do welcome your thoughts and ideas in the comments below, and check us out on Instagram. I haven't posted on Instagram in a while, but I'm going to start doing that more regularly as I get into the miniatures. I will say bye for now, and you have an absolutely fabulous day.